Greetings, GameCola faithful, and welcome to the GameCola podcast. This is podcast number 153. Tee-hee-hee. And of course, as always, I am your host and podcast commander, Joseph Martin, joined by
Alex the Jedraszczak, your Editor-in-Chief.
I'm Blu Ryder, and I'm a writer for GameCola.
Blu Ryder.
You didn't Blue.
Well, I was thinking
it was right there.
That, like, episode 153 and super spooky, 'cause it's spooky day. By the way, what are you guys dressed up as for this podcast?
I'm dressed up as I am under a big old bed sheet. That is a true thing about this podcast, but I'm not trying to be a ghost. I'm trying to make the audio not as bad as it was last time. Who knows if I was successful? Only you, the listener, and me in the future editing this.
As Jetty and Joseph can see, I am Kilometer's vertex value, the evil twin brother of Miles Edgeworth.
Yeah, much like Martin Joseph from the last podcast. We have
I had to kick him out. We can't have that going on. I could dress up as Martin Joseph for one Halloween if only, Jetty, you had not decided to change his hair color, because that I can't. I'm not willing. I'm not willing to dye my hair for this kid. No matter what.
I think our podcast...
You could have given him like a beard.
I think
because I have a beard most of the time anyway.
I think the abstract concept of our podcast itself is dressed up as not GameCola, but Crystallis, depending on how good its costume is.
Well, I guess my issue is this is going to be coming out, November 1st, which I'm pretty sure is the least spooky day. Like, you would think, being that it's only the day after Halloween, that it would be approximately similarly spooky, but I think it's more that it is, 364 days away from Halloween.
Well, I think I can counter that, because the Halloween movies, 1 and 2, they take place partially, late at night. I think the second one might take place primarily on, November 1st, but I'm not sure exactly. They don't have the best timeline presentation. It's dark a lot.
Spooky.
Anyways, do you know what else is spooky?
Video games?
Well, just one particular video game that was recently announced. For all of our moaning and complaining about the lack of indie game sequels, I guess it was finally, one of these days, someone was actually gonna say, hey, actually, I was making a sequel. Because we finally have had announced the sequel to Stardew Valley, Star2 Valley. This time there's a spooky ghost chocolate or something like that. I don't know. I only skimmed the video, including the video title, apparently. I skimmed that as well.
That was the full official title. Everything you just said.
I do find it interesting that I thought everyone was just saying that it was like Stardew Valley. I didn't realize it was actually created by the Stardew Valley person.
You thought it was plagiarism? You thought it was, maybe not plagiarism, because I think there are a lot of games that have sort of adopted that style.
Yeah. I thought it was
But no, it's from the same guy who made Stardew Valley. He's making the Haunted Chocolatier, I believe is what it's called.
Yeah.
Unless you throw in some more vowel sounds with those at the end, like Chocolatier or something like that.
It's Chocolatier.
Chocolatier than the last game.
Yeah.
This is true. There is no chocolate in Stardew Valley, at least in the title.
The question is if you can dress up as Willy Wonka, because I assume
almost certainly in some capacity. But yeah, there's a trailer out. It's sort of like a really early look, according to the description and what the developer ConcernedApe has talked about it. But the basic premise looks like, instead of farming, it's one of those games where a part of it is RPG, go and collect things, go fight monsters and stuff, and then you sell stuff based on your loot from those in a shop, and you set up your shop and set up the decor, and people come in and buy things from your shop. and like that's the sort of game loop. And I'm sure there's a genre name for this, like shop RPGs or something. It's not.
It's not really like a tycoon game or like a real shop management sim, but there is like what was it, Moonlighter? I played a year or two ago. Not really Little Dragon Cafe. I guess kind of like Little Dragon Cafe, but there was less real action adventure RPG stuff in that one, even if there was like exploration to get the ingredients. I'm trying to remember what it was called. There was one that I played very briefly, but it was just such absolute garbage that I
Battle Chef Brigade.
Wished
I don't know if that was it.
There probably is. No, sorry. Yeah. Oh man, it was just some generic game that I picked up because I was like, oh hey, cool. It sounds like it should be what I wanted out of Little Dragon Cafe, and then it was actually worse than Little Dragon Cafe. Like Little Dragon Cafe,
oh no,
I managed to beat, even if it was just like I'm gonna plow through this and just abuse all of the mechanics to get it over with.
Go full Aragon the feature film on your dragon and have it like turn from baby to adult like immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think I talked about how there's a point where you realize it doesn't matter what happens to your restaurant until the end.
Mm-hmm.
And there's
right,
like you have to burn through all the story stuff before you can meet the requirements to go to the next level. So I just went straight to sleep, watched the next story thing, went straight to sleep, and like it ruined my shop's reputation. But who cares? Because then I just burned through building my reputation, get to the minimum level, and then go burn through the next story that I just don't care about. But this game looks like it might have more than that, so.
Yeah, the art style is like not just similar, I would say identical, except for maybe some thematic elements. Like obviously it's the exact same art style on a different setting, basically, if that makes sense, right? Like it looks like it could be a very thorough Stardew Valley mod, and it might, like, aside from the fact that it was made by the person who made the first game, it probably isn't that far off from a very in-depth Stardew Valley mod. And I don't mean to say that as like a bad thing, or like, oh, it was lazy and didn't even make a new video game. Because, like, clearly there's a lot of good things with it. And, like, yeah, why not? If it's a good system, use it.
I mean,
but it is... It's
Sorry,
interesting.
Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. All I was going to say is that, like, I think part of it also helps, like, give it a through line with Stardew Valley without making it actually, like, a sequel, right? Like, I don't think there's going to be much. There may be, like, some Easter egg references, but this isn't going to be any sort of, like, continuation of Stardew Valley, aside from it's probably going to include some of the popular features and elements from Stardew Valley in whatever game loop that it has now.
I mean, there is a slight art style difference, I think. I mean, I'm not well versed in Stardew Valley, but they did like the Pokemon thing where they're little sprites, and now suddenly they have legs.
I mean, yes, I think there is a little bit more detail, but I just mean like visual. I'm not saying that there haven't been like improvements. I'm saying that like it's very clearly not. It's not going out of its way in any respect to differentiate itself.
I thought that was the one thing I noticed, and I was like, I'm gonna share my knowledge because I have nothing to add for the rest of this conversation.
So yeah, I mean, like I'll probably play it because I mean, Stardew Valley. I wasn't a big fan of farming games, and then I played Stardew Valley, and I really enjoyed it. So I mean, I'll probably play this too when it comes out, just because even if it's not a genre I'm super well versed in, especially with like the game knowledge transfer of like understanding the Stardew Valley loop. Again, I think will like sort of apply here, or at least will be interesting to like these two games will be very interesting to compare when they come out. And I am like legitimately excited for it. I think it's really cool. And like we said, we're always joking about how like indie developers should make a second video game.
Yeah.
And ConcernedApe went and did it. He made the second video game.
Yeah,
and we have to give him props for that.
Yeah, and didn't take like 15 years to do it.
Yeah, like I mean, this is it's maybe a little bit longer than like the sequel cycle for certain things.
I mean, he is just one guy, isn't he?
Yeah, like well, I think what a lot of teams would, what a lot of people would do is like move on to having a bigger team after the commercial success of their first big hit.
Yeah.
And if he's still working mostly independently, then like yeah, that's really impressive. I'm sure he has some like logistical, like not in a way to discredit, but I think just from a practical standpoint, he probably has some people that he at least collaborates with for logistical stuff. But yeah, it's as far as I can tell, he is still working at it alone for like the major game development pieces at least. But we'll have to see more. Did you have any characters that stood out to you?
Okay.
I looked at the trailer.
You did.
That's about all I can say. I don't know. I guess there's
Jetty and Blue, did you play Stardew Valley? I forget.
No, I didn't.
I did not. It's really not my type of game.
I feel like maybe I should have clarified that before going into it, because I feel like almost everyone, most of the other people on the staff have, so I kind of just assumed that everybody had played Stardew Valley, at least a little bit.
No, I know it was a constant topic for a brief period, or not even a brief period, for much of GameCola's history since it was released. But no, I have not played it.
Well, maybe to celebrate, we'll see if we can set something up. And I shouldn't say that because then whenever I say things like that, they never end up happening. So why don't we just move on to a new topic about video games, huh?
I'd like that.
Sure.
That would be good for me.
Let's talk about a different video game topic.
There's Guardians of the Galaxy releases in a few days. I ordered it like 2 months ago in pre-order, and I'm getting it the week after it releases, according to Amazon. So,
what is the genre of that video game? Is it like a 3D combat with like a Mass Effect-esque moral choice dialogue options? Like, is that the sort of vibe? To be honest,
I've been kind of avoiding most of the videos on it so I can be blind, but from the initial like reveal of it, from what I understand, it's sort of like Final Fantasy 13 or something, or Mass Effect. Yeah,
gosh dang it, which one was 13? 14's the internet one, 15's the car, 10 is soccer, 10 is water space soccer. I don't even know what 11, 12, and 13... Was there a 12?
Yes, there... I think... pretty...
Which one is 13?
The hallway one.
The hallway one? The one where you just go through hallways?
Pretty much.
I think I vaguely remember that being the running gag for a while about Final Fantasy.
Yeah. Except I think this won't be just a hallway. There's exploration and unlockables and stuff. I heard that...
What is space but the greatest hallway?
The big hallway.
Just a really big hallway.
I think I heard somewhere that there was a demo for like content creators, and in it your teammates after a fight would react to how much damage you let them take, and like Rocket would refuse to unlock the door you needed to progress, so that because you let him take too much damage, and then so you'd have to try and find another way around, but there wasn't one, so they spent like 10 minutes looking around, and then they went back to the door, and Rocket was like, yeah, I knew you needed me, I just was counting how long it took you to ask me again. So, it sounds like there's a lot of neat character interactions and stuff, and so I'm excited. Also, apparently, even though IGN's videos on how the gameplay is supposed to go are bad because whoever was recording it at IGN was really bad, other people make the combat look like much more fun. So that is...
Is it in a similar way to like the other? I feel like there's like a studio that makes a bunch of the Marvel games that have like a similar baseline. No?
No, actually, the reverse is true. Marvel only outsources it to other people.
But they don't outsource it to the same people?
No. I mean, Insomniac is making Spider-Man and Wolverine, so that's like a big one. And then Square Enix and Crystal Dynamics made Avengers, and Square Enix is making Guardians of the Galaxy, so there are studios that do more than one, but it's not... It's a lot. It's pretty decentralized for the most part.
That's what I meant, though. Like this game has sort of its roots in the style of the more recent like Avengers, like the general Avengers.
No, not. It's like a completely different style of game. They actually they're avoiding Avengers for pretty obvious reasons.
But it's the gameplay style is different too?
From what I understand, yes, completely.
Okay. I believe you. At the same time, I have thoughts in my brain about like how different can running up to people and beating them up be. But...
Well, I think that is a weird question, because Mortal Kombat is not the same as...
sorry, in 3D space, specifically.
Okay,
I feel
Tekken
like
is not the same as Xenoblade.
That's
I don't know, but like Xenoblade is similar to like Ys 8 or whatever.
Right. I mean, I should be more specific,
like
right? Like
May
of
Cry,
like running, like you're running around as a third-person character in a space, and you run up to someone and you do like button combos. Or is this like an RPG?
It isn't. It has RPG elements. I don't know how RPG it is.
But it's not turn-based, right?
Not from what I understand, but I have been avoiding it, so...
Well, I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are on it.
Well, I was excited...
I clearly do not understand it very well.
I was really excited to write a review on, as soon as I got it on launch day, but then Amazon was like, I know you pre-ordered this months ago, but you're getting it late. We don't like you.
That is too
Somehow
bad.
the chip shortage is affecting printing DVDs. Actually, I backed a Kickstarter recently.
Ooh.
Yeah, I backed a...
It's like we're all the way back in 2012.
No,
Was
I believe...
Spaceboat?
No, I believe... No, it's before 2012. I think it's like 2004. I backed a GameBoy Color game that was so ambitious at the time that they stopped. They couldn't find a publisher because it was so late in the Game Boy Color's life cycle.
Yeah, I read all about that, and I was like, I want to back this, but I don't have money.
It was very expensive.
I looked at it and I was like, oh.
Wait, so this was a Kickstarter in 2004?
No, it's a Kickstarter now.
It's
but
bringing back a game that was in development hell, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. Okay, I get it. I was like, was this like a project that started in 2004 and then kickstarted in 2012? I think it started in
the late 90s, from when I was reading up on the history of it, and it was pretty neat.
Yeah, that they had basically, not quite completed the game, but they had this very ambitious project, and it looks really cool. A RPG for the Game Boy Color, and they just kind of lost publisher interest with the advent of the Game Boy Advance, and they were like, well, but we have this largely developed game. So now they are kickstarting it to complete the game and then also get, physical cartridges and stuff. So getting a physical cartridge from the Kickstarter is on the expensive end. It also looks a lot more, well, I guess that's funny. To me, it looks a lot more expensive than it actually is because it's in Canadian dollars. But at
that's
least one
why.
of us...
Can you translate?
Well, no, I don't know American dollars.
Yeah, I think it was like $90 to get the cartridge Canadian, and I think that was like 60 or 70.
Yeah.
Which is still
I am
a bit
always,
on the high end for a game Kickstarter.
In the past, on GameCola, you've talked about, like, oh, people should be ready for games to jump to $80. And I was like, what, is it on sale? I wish I could.
Yeah. Everything, and like historically, there's just kind of been a standard for like 20 years that Canadian dollars is just 30% more than American, kind of regardless of what the actual exchange rate is. It's just like printed on the back of the books or whatever.
Yeah, that's why I'm like afraid of the American jump in video game prices, because that'll mean I'll pay like $120 for one game.
Yeah. But yes, I'm excited about it.
What's the name of it?
Infinity.
Yeah.
Like, is it spelled a weird way?
Nope.
It's just spelled like the regular word infinity.
Yes, perfect for SEO.
I guess, to be fair, they made this video game before search engine optimization existed.
Yeah, now, however, it is by Incube8 Games.
Oh, yeah.
Which is spelled Incube8.
Like the letter 8?
Yes,
the letter 8, yes.
I'm glad we all picked up what I meant by that.
So yes, it is Infinity.
So Jetty,
yes,
I like this story a lot.
Okay.
It's a good story. But why is it? What is so appealing about the game itself, or is it really mostly just like the story of it was a game that didn't quite make it, and now we can bring it over that final hurdle with the power of crowdfunding?
Yeah, so there's kind of two things about this for me, is that lately I have been on a bit of a thing. Actually, I'm trying to remember what the other one was. I've been interested and excited about indie development of like NES games that is like becoming popular lately, and like there's been several that have had physical cartridges. But there's a point where a lot of modern developers make modern development style games for the NES. So like Micro Mages is kind of cool, but it's also like a couch co-op, not really like a roguelite, but kind of. It's just like you play through procedurally generated levels and get the high score. And like you can play any of those for free on itch.io, not to insult the developers, but just like if I am looking for something on classic hardware, I'm kind of hoping for a certain level of classic styling. I don't know how excited I would be if it went full Dragon Warrior and had you enter a menu to go up the stairs.
Yeah, that's also like I was gonna say, like, do you want all of like NES era game padding? So like have a game that's 2 hours padded with several hours of backtracking and lost progress if you make one mistake and stuff like that.
But let's say that we could get a new Crystalis style game, right? Like Crystalis is an action adventure game on the Nintendo. So let's say somebody did make something like that. If you basically just reskinned it and gave it a new story, I would happily, purchase that.
And maybe change the level cap situation.
Yes, there are some quality of life improvements that perhaps could be made. Actually, I think I saw while I was looking at the translation that there are other ROM hacks that are just like, yeah, Crystallis, but with quality of life improvements.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think there's room for improvement on old style games, but while maintaining sort of aesthetic things and like development sense of what was available on the console at the time. Like producing games that are what we imagined they were when we played them originally, right? Like if I go back now and I played the original Legend of Zelda, I'm like, wow, I was supposed to figure out that I had to like put the bridge on this one space of water and walk over and there's a secret door there. But if I could have a game that was like the original Legend of Zelda, but actually good with, my adult brain, that'd be cool. And so I've been big into this sort of, it's not really even homebrew, I wouldn't call it. It's just like indie development on classic systems, and I think that's super cool. So I went ahead and supported this one, and I look forward to supporting more in the future.
So, like, what kind of RPG is it? Is it sort of like a Dragon Warrior style?
It's like a tactical RPG, which is kind of like, looking at it, it looks like it's way beyond what should be possible on the Game Boy Color. But then I've also recently been looking at like late Game Boy Color games and realizing what the system was really capable of once people like learned all the tips and tricks. So yeah, it's like a tactics game if you're familiar with like old Fire Emblem and stuff.
I mean, there wasn't really a whole lot of time between the Game Boy Color and the Game Boy Advance, I think, right? Like,
what Game Boy Color came out, what, like 99 or 2000 or something? When did the Game Boy Advance come out?
Game Boy Advance came out in like 2001.
Did it?
I think so. Because then the SP came out in 2003.
Yeah, it did.
Maybe it was a little bit earlier than for the Game Boy Color.
Yeah, 1998. Interesting. No, I guess...
yeah, so like only 3 years for the Game Boy Color to exist. So yeah, it makes sense that it didn't really get a chance to be utilized. It was kind of just a special Game Boy.
Yeah, I mean...
in terms of how it was able to get used.
Yeah, it basically was. Yeah, I guess it's one of those weird things where because of the time in my life that it popped up or whatever, it's like, okay, it spans, the me going into middle school into like me in high school or whatever, and it seems like such a vastly long period of time, and it's like, no, it was like 3 years, right? And so it seems in my mind like a much longer history, but apparently not.
So did they say like how close they are? Sort of like, because you said like most of it's, they got really far in production. So like, is there a timeline sort of predicted?
Yeah, I guess, I don't know, I read it at the time that I backed it, and I don't remember now. Such great and wonderful discussion on this episode of the GameCola podcast.
Would you like me
I'll put a
to help with some breaking news?
Oh, you broke some news?
No, I didn't, but 35 minutes ago, right before we started, Mortal Kombat developer potentially working on Super Smash Bros. Style game called Multiverses.
What?
So it's a crossover platform fighter like Smash Bros. But with WB characters like Shaggy, Gandalf, Tom and Jerry, Batman, Harry Potter, stuff like that.
Like, I get that they just did the Nintendo All-Star
Apparently
Brawler
this was in development since before that.
This is Nickelodeon, you mean?
Wait,
Smash Brothers is the
Nickelodeon,
Nintendo All-Star Brawler.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's the Nickelodeon one, right? Which, like, was fun. And I mean, like, it seems to be decently, like, I think everyone's like, I think it lived up to its moderate hype, if that makes sense, right? Like people were hoping that no one was thinking it was going to be as good as Smash Brothers from like a development quality standpoint, just because like there's probably not as much funding behind it as Smash Brothers. No. There's not as much iteration on it. But like, I think it did pretty well, and I'm wondering if, people or other companies are like, well, I mean, we have like 1 million IP. That's all that we do as big old media companies now, is just eat up everybody's IP and don't let them use it for anything. So why not just throw them all into a video game and hope that people will buy it just based on IP alone?
This reportedly has been in development since before that game was announced.
Reportedly. Well, I mean, that's fair. Maybe. I don't know. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
This originally came from a Reddit leak from a burner account, so it wasn't... No one took it seriously, but then it got trademarked by Warner Bros., so...
That is interesting. So here's
the thing,
though.
What if they just saw that post?
That's what I was
thinking. That's a good idea.
Oh, thanks. Random Reddit person.
I guess when you first said that the Mortal Kombat developer was working on like a cross-IP game, I thought that it was going to be like... you can do fatalities on Tekken characters or something. But now it sounds like you're going to be able to do fatalities on like Wacko.
Well, it sounds...
I guess... Yeah, I mean, that would be fun, right? Like, I'm sure, Animaniacs would definitely get... And, like, they have the Animaniacs, like, Hulu show, right? So, like, it wouldn't be, like... It would be relevant to their business currently as well. But I wonder, because, like, at that point, you're starting to get into, like, live action properties.
It is, so I did just go, I went to Mortal Kombat on Wikipedia, and at the bottom it says Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment, and you open it, and it says, Asheron's Call, Batman, Blood, Condemned, Defender, Fear, Game Party, Gauntlet, Harry Potter, Injustice, Joust, Lego, Middle-earth, Mortal Kombat, Rampage, Scribblenauts, Spy Hunter, and Touchmaster.
Yep.
Those are the properties that they own, or the properties in this potential video
properties they
game?
own.
So I mean, in theory, you could have like Batman versus Lego Batman versus Harold Potter.
Batman versus Lego Batman versus the sprite that appears when you type Batman in Scribblenauts.
Yes.
Also, what, like Red Elf or something from
Red Warrior
Gauntlet?
Needs food badly.
Yeah, like...
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of companies who could make their own, like, we have 1 million IP, we'll put them in a fighting game and have them punch each other. I guess it's just one of those things where it's like, is the reason that hasn't been done in the past because it just no one thought it would be successful, or it was like untested, right? Like there's a lot of things where it's like, maybe this sounds like a good idea, but a lot of businesses will just pick something that they know will work rather than something that they're not sure they can emulate the success of Smash Brothers.
Because gamers are an oppressed people, so catering to them is gonna lose you money.
But at the same time, you also wonder if there's an element of, like, how hard is it to get something like this with, like, the actual appeal to, like with Smash Brothers, right? Like, there's sort of a built-in element of it's a bunch of video game characters, right? So the people who like those characters are also people who like video games. And platform fighters are not very accessible to people who aren't familiar with video games in general. Perhaps even not really accessible to people who haven't played platform fighters. Like,
I mean,
it is not intuitive. Like Mario Kart, right? Mario Kart's intuitive. Anyone, like, the reason Mario Kart is so successful is because anyone can pick up and play Mario Kart decently well, with, like, almost no understanding of video games prior, right?
I mean,
I don't think that that's the case with a platform fighter.
That might have been the case, but now that the Nicktoons one where they don't have the characters from video games, they have characters from other media. so there isn't that crossover from people who like video games to necessarily like support them, and it still worked. I mean, I don't know
I
how
guess
successful it actually is in terms of sales.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing that you have to keep in mind is that, like, okay, for Nintendo, if Nintendo can take people who are interested in, you know, their Mario games and Pokemon and so on, and then be like, oh yeah, have you ever actually tried, you know, Star Fox? Well, here, Star Fox is in the game, and you're like, Star Fox, I've never actually played that. Let me go buy a Star Fox video game, and then simultaneously, like, you start bringing in you know, Cloud or whatever, and then people are like, yeah, well, I play all these Nintendo games, but now I'm going to, you know, play Final Fantasy, and then Final Fantasy people are like, whoa, cool, they got Cloud, let me buy Smash Brothers, you know, maybe I should give that a shot, that's neat, I played it at a friend's house. So like there's cross sales. Meanwhile, are people really gonna go buy something from SpongeBob because he's in Nintendo Cartoon Brawler All-Star, whatever? I keep saying Nintendo.
Nickelodeon. But yeah, so that's the thing, right? Like, because like even when it's completely internal, dealing with a bunch of disparate IPs can be like a major financial nightmare and just logistical nightmare. Like there's
trying to
all
balance
these like standards and practices, and like these are all of our style guides on how these characters have to be represented in all of these different forms, and they're all headed up by different departments, and like there's different contracts about licensing and who can do what with what, and if it's in a video game or if it's in a movie or if it's a Disney Spider-Man or a Sony Spider-Man, and then they have a public battle and they try to get people to care about who wins the Spider-Man movie wars, and it's like, we both don't really like either of you, stop trying to make us pick sides and just someone spend a bunch of money to make a Spider-Man movie already. I don't need to hear about it. So what I'm saying is that like a big crossover event is not like the easy money that it might sound like, because it's like a really difficult game to make, even just getting all of the IP stuff coordinated. And like I think maybe Nickelodeon, it works a bit better because there's probably a certain level of synergy with that, right? Like they probably mostly focused on their like original content that is probably under the Nicktoons umbrella, but like with like this Warner Brothers concept, right? A lot of that is acquired IP, right? Like it's not developed in-house from Warner Brothers, right? It's Warner Brothers licenses it, or you know, has the rights to video games and like certain elements, and the rules in those contracts are probably really different from each other.
Sorry, I just had a thought about like people who argue about the stupid Twitter user, like end user license agreement, where it says like that they have a universal right to republish anything that you post. It's like, well, yeah, because they're putting the things that you say on the internet. That doesn't mean that they get to make a movie if you tweet a movie concept. But like, but imagine if Twitter went out and made
a platform
Twitter
fighter?
Battle All Stars. Yeah. And just were like, well, you signed the end user license agreement. That means that we have universal rights to publish your image. So we're taking your profile image from the top Twitter users.
I was thinking more along the lines of just your tweet, like a screenshot of just a little rectangle with 5 words in it from you, and they're like, yep, this is one of the main characters. This is the DLC character for our platform fighter.
So, I mean, if a bunch of other people start doing it, it'll be interesting. I don't know if I'll play any of them, but it'll be interesting to see if a bunch of people will try to get into this space. And it'll be good because, like, a lot of the time, you know, people fighting game studios that are, like, have histories with more indie-style projects or fighting games will get a chance to work in a more, like, license under a big name environment, which like I'm sure like for whatever the team that made the Nickelodeon platform fighter, like if they continue, like I don't know how long they're sort of like set on continuing support for that game before they would move on to a new project, but like it'll certainly help them moving on to whatever new projects that they want to do. So like it's the only people who really stand to lose out from this are the big companies trying to put all their IP in one place. So like
there is
probably a net positive no matter what.
There's still the fact that this is just a rumor as of yet and hasn't been officially confirmed despite the trademark. There were the rumors that they were working on a Injustice style game that was DC versus Marvel, and that would also fit under the title of multiverses. I don't know how to multiverses. It's versus like Batman versus Superman, but multiverses.
Yeah.
Multiverses who? Who's multi and who is he versing?
You'll have to find out in the sequel.
In multiverses, not multiverses who, multiverses 2.
Yeah, multiverses 2.
I think it might actually be time for us to move on to games that we've been playing in recent times.
Oh my goodness. Have I played games? Have I had time?
I can start because the game that I played in recent times was Picross, but not just any Picross, but a Picross that I made from the ground up.
Oh?
At my job, they put me in a C++ online training program to help me brush up my skills. And the last thing was a capstone project where they're like, make something like a video game. Yeah. And I was like, did you say video game?
Sick.
And so I made Picross, and it's not very good, but it does work. It opens up you put in, you have to open it from the terminal, but you put in a number, and if it's between 3 and 9, it'll make a Picross board of that size, and it'll put in the little numbers that tell you how to do it. And then if you click, it'll either turn the square into a black square if it's correct, or a red square if it's wrong, and that's Picross.
Are the solutions as mean as Wario's?
Yes, probably because they're completely randomly generated.
Fantastic.
So they're not even all technically like possible to logic out. Necessarily. There's also a very, very rare chance, though it did happen to me once, it's a very rare chance that it'll generate a board that's already solved because it has no squares to knock out.
Oh. Yeah, I remember goofing around with Minesweeper, the original one on like Windows 3.1, and having it be like, okay, put it on the easiest mode and the biggest thing, and then just like if you click anywhere you win.
Right. Because you're like guaranteed not to
Yeah, you have to be really unlucky to actually click on the one mine that is in this massive field.
Well, I think also Minesweeper is set up so that it generates it after your first click, so that it always makes your first click not a bomb.
I don't remember. I mean, I would have been like 6. But what was I gonna say? I was remembering. When I was in college, I was in my last semester of my degree, and they released a game programming course after I was like done with computer science. I was like, okay, I have one slot to fill for an elective. I'm going to take this game programming course. And I ended up making some kind of weird Pong game, but it had like randomized wind or something. Like, wow, what a game.
That sounds fantastic.
Brilliant game development. Yeah, but it is cool to hear that Joseph is developing Picross with roguelike elements.
No, Jetty, I already told you the title of my fantasy Picross game. Fantasy as in, like, it's what I would want, not, like,
Yeah.
Dungeons
Yeah,
and
your
Dragons.
dream
My
Picross
dream
game.
Picross game is Pickles Ross's
Oh,
Super
yes.
Picross, featuring Peyton by numbers,
Great.
which is just a regular. It's just Picross, but it has Kid Icarus Uprising like dialogue that plays over while you're solving the board,
Oh my goodness.
which I think would be a good addition to Picross, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, when you get to the boards of like a certain size, you get to the point where like, well, I need to put a podcast on because I'm kind of just like half of this game is just me staring at this board looking for a square to knock out, and I'm not actually physically doing anything. So having something on in the background would be neat. I think it would also probably be completely unfeasible to record a ton of dialogue for a game like this, but that's my dream Picross game.
What if you also had enemies? So it was like what is it? The little guy who swears. What is it? He was in Wreck-It Ralph.
Oh, Cubert?
Yeah, thank you. I had the name and then it just immediately blanked on me as the moment that I went to say it. But you know, that you have like the little things that are hopping around and like messing up your board.
Maybe. I feel like that would undo the joy of Picross though, as like a meditative exercise, which is what it is for me.
Yeah. But just something I don't know if it would actually be entertaining to do.
We enjoyed cooperative Picross, obviously,
yes.
with Mario Picross. I wonder if there is a way to make good competitive Picross.
Who can solve it first, right?
I guess,
well,
but like,
that would be it. But like, if you could mess up
if
your
you had
like
Mario
Tetris
Kart
Attack.
style power-ups.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh, okay, no, this could work. You could make this work, right? Because like you could have, it would just be about like hiding information. Like, I think it wouldn't be fun if it would like undo your progress. But like if it like just like you're trying to solve it, and if you do something right, like if you get a whole board knocked, like not a whole board, but like a whole row or a whole column knocked out, you could send over a thing that like like for 10 to 20 seconds made one of their rows or columns like completely blank, like just so that you couldn't see what the numbers were, or that you couldn't see what you had knocked out. I don't know, you could make it work. So honestly, you could probably also just do a Picross board that isn't square. I feel like I've never actually seen that, even though that's like a super simple like permutation of it. I'm sure someone has done it, but in most games they really are just like squares. I don't know. Anyway, so that was my time. I might mess around with it more. It just got approved and sealed of approval, so now I can do whatever I want with it.
Nintendo seal of approval.
So, yeah, maybe I'll put it on Nintendo Switch. I don't know if the SDL2 SDL2 library would work with the Nintendo Switch. That's how I got it to do graphics, because that's what the course suggested I use. So it wasn't made in a game engine. It's just pure C++, and it's probably not the best way to make a video game, because it's kind of a pain. Apparently it's how they made Angry Birds, though. Jetty, have you been playing any video games in recent times?
I think I briefly mentioned Eastward, and no, I already talked about Garden Story. I kept wanting to say Grape Story. It's not called Grape Story, it's called Garden Story. But it's about a grape.
Yeah.
Yes. But I've been rather busy as of late. Have not had a lot of time to video many games. But I have been thinking lately about getting back to streaming, that were I to play, I think that's part of the thing, is that like I feel like I should be being productive, and playing a video game does not seem very productive. But were I to be streaming, I would feel slightly as if I were doing something worthwhile with my time.
I mean, we could do Saturday morning Picross.
Oh, that would be fun.
Oh man,
because like that would be that would be Saturday afternoon Picross for me.
Yeah. But it would work. No, I would be. Yeah, that's something that I could see myself doing.
I do really want to, like, get more into GameCola, but there isn't a lot of opportunity for that right now.
Yeah, I kind of, moving to London kind of like threw everything off, huh, didn't it? I should have thought about that before moving to London, that it would be very inconvenient for everyone else at GameCola.
Yeah.
Dare you live your life, traitor?
How dare you look out for your own well-being and your career?
Yeah, I'm still recording this podcast at 8 p.m. like we always do. I don't know what's up with you guys. And I was under a bedsheet back home, too, so this really isn't that different. Blue, have you been playing any video games in recent times?
Whatever I was playing last month, which was like a decade ago in my time. I think I finished it. I think I played a few Mega Man games.
Oh, yeah, tell me about that. You have to. You're legally obligated. Tell me about Mega Man. Which ones did you play?
I started with one.
Rookie mistake.
I realized I'm very bad at it, so I had to heavily use the rewind feature, which...
No, but Mega Man 1 is also just, like, not well designed for a newcomer. Like, there's just a lot of stuff in there that isn't very well communicated, and it's weird, and a lot of weird, gross mechanics that don't work well, and even, like, Mega Man is known for, like, tight controls, right? Like,
yeah, and
really
he's, like,
easy to control,
slippery.
Mega Man 1 actually has...
I started
Yeah.
in my platformer, and he was slippery, and...
Yeah. He's got, like, just a little bit of ice physics in 1. So, yeah, 1 is, like, the worst one to start with, because it's just not as good.
Well, I replayed it a few times so that I would get slightly better and rely less on the rewind mechanic, even though after like the third time beating it, I was still very heavily using it. I could do like some stuff and not die. It's weird because I've like played platformers and I've played even platformers with like shooting mechanics. And so I'm like, oh, I'm alright at sight reading. I know this is a difficult game, but I'm sure I won't suck at it that bad. And then I encounter the little shell helmet guy that is the first or the first enemy or whatever. And then I'm like, oh, it's a Goomba equivalent. Surely it will not shoot at me, because game design dictates that enemies that would shoot at you in a game like this will appear later on in the game. And then it was like, oh no, it is killing me. I am dead. It has bullets and I'm getting knocked back very far and into pits of spikes.
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing about Mega Man 1 is that you don't get spike invincibility when you're damaged. In all the other Mega Man games, if you get hit in the spikes,
die.
you don't
That's
die. You don't know. In 1, you just
Yeah.
die. In every other Mega Man game, you get, like, a period of, like, invincibility.
But when you
where you're
just
immune.
die, and I was not ready for that.
Yeah.
But after like replaying it 3 times and getting a tiny bit better each time, I moved on to 2, which is my favorite so far, aside from some choices they made near the end. There's like a random
2 is
mini
just a
boss
disaster at
where
the
you
end.
need like the crash bombs, and you need like a lot of them, or else it's just pointless, and you have to go back in the...
You need all of them,
Yeah.
actually. You need every single one. You need to not use Crash Bomb, one of the 8 weapons that you're given in the game where you're supposed to use
And I
weapons
think
to complete
I might be
challenges, and they put a whole bunch of
remembering
walls
wrong,
there.
but
so that,
like earlier in the level, I think there's a wall that you destroy with crash bombs.
Oh, they're all over.
And so
They're
I
all over.
we spent like
It's such
an
a bad
hour
design.
like trying to figure out what to do, and I was just like, oh, nothing. You can't. So I had to go
You have to
back
get a game
earlier
over.
I had to die and then go back earlier into the level and then kill a bunch of enemies but leave the room and then come back so they'd respawn, and then eventually get enough of the refills, because when you die it doesn't refill your weapon.
Yeah, you get a refill if you get a game over. So either you have to
I just
get a
farmed
game over,
enemies
or,
by repeatedly entering a room and killing them.
Which enemies were you? Well, you weren't farming. Blue. Please tell me you weren't farming Sniper Joes.
I don't remember. I don't know.
Were you?
I know probably not that
guys
because
in big
I
mecha
hate
suits?
those and I have no idea how to deal with them.
Because there's a room where you can just stand with the woodman's weapon, the leaf shield, and tellies will fly into you. And
Yeah,
you'll
that's what I
refill.
did. That's exactly what I did.
Okay. That's much easier than fighting the big guys
Yeah,
in the giant mech
I don't
suits that are
understand even
partially
how
invincible.
to fight a Sniper Joe. Like, every other enemy, I eventually learn at least a way to deal with them, or just, like, run past them or whatever. But those ones, they just hurt and won't die.
Yeah, there's a couple of, like, ways, but again, like, yeah, Mega Man 2 is, like, probably the biggest improvement
Yeah.
between a Mega Man game and its predecessor, but
Definitely
it's still got a
near
lot
the
of
end
stuff
of the
that's
game
just...
when I had like a bunch of weapons and was like switching between them and doing neat stuff. I was like, okay, I get Mega Man now, at least a little bit more than I did. And then I finished 2 and I played through 3, which I didn't like as much as 2, but it did have the little slide that I wished was in 2 on multiple occasions.
Yep, slide's great.
And
We
2, I was
stand.
like, oh, I wish I could slide here. That would be great, but I can't. And then I moved on to 4, and I got through most of it, and then I didn't have time to play things for like 4 more weeks. It was fun.
Well, I'm interested to hear what you think about 4 through 6, because those, I like, I'm definitely a late NES era fan. I think
I'm
that
not a big
they did
fan
get better
of 4,
each time.
to be honest. I like Brightman's stage. It like makes you rethink some stuff. Mainly like the run and shoot everything you see, because that actually hinders you. So that was a neat moment, but so far it's not my favorite. Another game
I really
played
liked 5
this
and
month,
6.
the last game was Spaceboat, which I got a free code for, and wrote a little first impressions article for, which I think will be out before this.
Yeah, it should be out on Monday, because I wanted to make sure it was timely for the Kickstarter, which you can go and support, you listeners out there who might want to play a game about a cat that is in...
climbs into a mech
some
and
kind
solves crime.
Yeah. Like, it is pretty great, is that, like, you see this character walking around and there's just like a small patch of like open space where you see a cat's face,
and you have
that
googly
is
eyes on your mech suit. It's great.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? Oh, I think I did a serviceable job on that article for never writing anything like it before.
Yeah, hopefully the developers appreciate it, and hopefully some GameCola readers out there will appreciate it and check out the game.
I think I said like a few not great things about the game, but I hope they don't hate me.
Well, I mean, it's currently in development and you were getting an early release preview build, so I'm sure some of these issues will be solved by the time that the game is completed after they get a whole bunch of money from Kickstarter.
Yeah, which you should go give to right now, listeners.
Yes.
And with that call to action, I think it is time for our other calls to action that we do at the end of every single podcast, the GameCola podcast, # the GCPC. Thank you for listening to this episode of the GameCola podcast. If you like what you heard, please be sure to check us out on our actual internet website, GameCola.net, where you can read articles like the one that Blue brought up, and you can see the other podcasts that we've done, all, literally over a decade of content and articles from all the way back when this website was just a newsletter that Paul Franzen sent out to people's hot
Almost
mails.
2 decades. We're getting close.
The call to action there was that you should thank yourself. It was the command version of thank you. We were telling you that you should.
Programmed in C++.
If you like the jokes like this that Jetty just told about weird language things that I didn't get for a period of time that Jetty was trying to tell the joke.
The best type of joke is the one that you have to explain.
Yes, exactly. You can follow us on our YouTube channel where we post other podcasts and video content. That YouTube channel is, of course, called GCDotNet, the letter G, the letter C, the word dot, the word net. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Just search for GameCola.
Soon you won't be able to follow us on Facebook because Facebook won't be Facebook anymore.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that. I mean, honestly, I haven't paid attention to Facebook in like 5 years.
Blue, you can't just drop something like this on me at the end of a podcast. What are you talking about? Give me 2-sentence summary.
Facebook is changing its name.
They're going back to their like 2006 roots and removing all of the vowels or something. So it's going to be like.
I didn't hear that. They were gonna announce what they're changing their name and they're announcing what it is like next month or something.
Oh, I guess that's the thing is I think that the company is changing from Facebook to FCBK or something equally stupid. I don't know what the actual website's going to be called. It's kind of like the whole...
I'm really hoping it's the Facebook.
The Facebook, yes.
Hashtag the FB. Hashtag the FBCK.
Hashtag the FB.
It's like the Google alphabet stupid thing.
What else? If you want to send an email to the podcast, you can do podcast@GameCola.net, or you can join our Discord. It's linked in our Twitter. It's linked on the article. You can find one of us and we'll tell you how to get to the Discord. It's a cool place to hang out and talk about video game news and discussion and memes. And what did we talk about most recently on the GameCola Discord?
Yeah, we were talking about Pokemon, and...
Jetty really wants me to go on my Pokemon rant, but I'm going to save it for when Pokemon comes out next month.
Yeah, it was a good one. I was really interested. Like, I didn't have time to actually sit and be too involved, but I came back and, like, scrolled up and read the whole 82 pages of discussion. There was,
like 81 of those pages was just me. But yeah,
you were going on about like design characteristics and everything. Like, yeah, it was a good time. And if I say it now, like the game's gonna come out in a month, and then like everything I say is gonna be like proved wrong. So I just want the actual video game to exist before I say a whole bunch about Pokemon as a franchise, because I feel like I'm just setting myself up for karmic retribution. And for like the 8th time in the Discord's history, I posted Thomas the Dank Engine. Oh, and then Brandcliffe used the one that I cut, the patent of the guy standing up and yelling McDonald's at his screen to get the ad to go away.
Which is a great
image. Yeah.
Please, you will enjoy visiting our Discord.
I
Come
told
join us.
people
it's
to
a great
binge
place.
the first 4 seasons of Young Justice because I can't, because I'm Canadian and they don't want my money.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the GameCola podcast. Have a wonderful time of day, wherever it is, whenever it is you are listening to this podcast, and we will see you next month. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Don't let the vampires bite.
Oh yeah, because of Halloween.
That was previous to this podcast.
Only by a few hours.
Depending on
your regional accent and how good your costume is.
If you sound like this, it was recently.
That's such a good joke.
Okay, well, we got the coda, so that's good.
Yeah. And it wasn't one that you had to clip from the middle and put at the end.
Yeah.
Those are the best kinds.